Imagine waking up tomorrow to find every question you have ever had about pain, about evil, about that stubbed toe that ruined your morning, finally answered. What if the answer was simple? There is no cosmic designer, and what you see is exactly what you get. Does that idea terrify you, or does it finally make sense? Keep that tension in mind as we pull on every thread believers say cannot be unraveled. Let us start with one bold promise many religions make. A being called Omnigod, omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, crafted everything, knows everything, and loves everything. Nice headline, but headlines are cheap. Engineering is hard. So here's the first question. If you are literally perfect, why create anything at all? Perfection needs nothing. It lacks nothing. The moment Omnigod decides to create, perfection flickers. What was missing? Companionship? Praise? A cosmic hobby to pass eternity? The very act of creation smells like need, and need is the shadow of imperfection. But let us grant the divine impulse. The next question hits harder. Why create a universe that runs on suffering and death? 80+% of all stars will eventually burn out. Nearly every species that has ever lived is extinct. On Earth alone, we count tsunamis, malaria, childhood cancers. Yet believers insist this is a flawless masterwork. If that is excellence, what does failure look like? Think of black holes, regions where gravity is so intense not even light escapes. They're giant cosmic shredders, perfectly tuned to erase information. If a deity really wanted to showcase power, could not it build a universe without celestial garbage disposals? Could not it trade supernova shockwaves for something less murderous? Ask yourself, which designer looks smarter? The one who builds a Ferrari that explodes randomly on the highway, or the engineer who ensures every bolt is over-specced? Why should we grade the cosmos on a curve? Place these doubts next to a centuries-old claim by philosopher Gottfried Leibniz. He argued we inhabit the best of all possible worlds. His logic, a perfect God must choose perfectly, and this world is what he chose. Therefore it must be optimal, warts, cancers, tsunamis, and all. Does that explanation satisfy a mother holding her feverish infant? Would you accept optimal as comfort while choking on dust in a collapsing mine shaft? Leibniz did. Voltaire laughed him right out of Paris. Let us poke at Leibniz's numbers. The Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004 killed roughly 230,000 people in a single morning. If we are living in the best possible world, those specific 230,000 deaths were necessary. One fewer corpse, and perfection fails. That means every drowned child, every shattered parent, every gasping grandparent had to perish, or God's cosmic spreadsheet would not balance. Comfortable with that? Or do you feel a guttural recoil, the moral equivalent of an air raid siren telling you something is off? Now widen the lens. Under a theistic storyboard, every stubbed toe, every parasite burrowing into a baby's eye, every starving stray is woven into an allegedly perfect tapestry. Yet perfection, by definition, cannot include gratuitous pain, suffering that accomplishes nothing. So believers must swallow a bitter pill. Either declare every atom of agony necessary, or admit the tapestry unravels. Let us test the necessity theory. Picture a world identical to ours except one fewer mosquito bite last night. Would erasing that pinprick ripple into cosmic catastrophe? Would planets stop spinning? If not, the bite was gratuitous, and omni-goodness collapses. Strip away just one cancer cell, one rape, one random polio infection, and the edifice of divine perfection crumbles. That is how fragile the defense is. Remove a hangnail, topple a theology. Maybe some argue we are still on the road to perfection. Today's misery primes tomorrow's bliss, like painful physical therapy that ends in mobility. Fine, then pain must be precisely the perfect dosage. Too little, heaven never blooms. Too much, free will implodes. Does that sound remotely plausible? We cannot even calibrate a household thermostat without occasional discomfort. Yet a deity supposedly nails the optimum level of global anguish to the decimal. Ask yourself, do the statistics of random earthquakes feel calibrated, or do they feel brutally indifferent? At this point, a believer may shout, "Free will," as if those two words slam every skeptical door. But free will does not explain typhoons or tectonic plates. No human chooses to shift continents. No toddler chooses leukemia. Invoke Eden's apple if you like. Plate tectonics preceded humanity by 3 billion years. Did a snake also tempt subduction zones? Maybe suffering build character. Really? Cancer kills toddlers before they learn to read. Tsunamis obliterate entire coral reefs. Ecosystems with no moral agency to grow. Black holes rip apart stars no one will ever see. What character lesson is the Andromeda Galaxy receiving from cosmic entropy? Let us sharpen the point. When engineers discover a flaw, say, an overheating smartphone, they issue a recall or release a patch. Omni-God, we are told, is the ultimate engineer. But natural disasters read like patch notes gone missing. Even worse, we are expected to call that negligence mysterious wisdom. Would you buy a self-driving car that sometimes swerves into crowds and trust the manufacturer's claim it is for a greater good? You would sue. Why give God a legal pass? If this still feels abstract, return to your own body. Recognize the appendix. An organ so useless its primary function seems to be inflaming, then bursting at midnight. Note the inverted retina, which forces light to swim through wiring before hitting sensors, creating a blind spot your brain has to Photoshop. Marvel at the shared air and food tube that makes choking the fourth leading accidental killer in rich nations. If you believe in intelligent design, these are not quirks, they are deliberate choices. Does deliberate mediocrity scream divine? Zoom out further. Entropy guarantees a heat death trillions of years from now. Stars extinguished, atoms shivering near absolute zero, black holes bleeding hawking radiation. That is not a hopeful eschatology, it is cosmic hospice care. A perfect creator writing a perfect story would surely stick the landing. Instead, the finale is universal frostbite. Call that artistry if you like. I call it sloppy storytelling. By now you may wonder, if the evidence screams imperfection, why do billions still cling to a perfect deity? Part of the answer is psychological. Humans hate loose ends more than bad explanations. A flawed narrative beats no narrative. A cruel creator beats existential silence. Another part is social. Belief was historically enforced by sword or exile. Losing faith once meant losing tribe, livelihood, life. Some habits linger, but beliefs should match evidence, not fear. And the evidence? Pain multiplying like bacteria, galaxies indifferent to prayers, biology rife with kludges, makes a blunt statement. No omnibenevolent engineer wrote these blueprints. Evolution, meteorology, plate tectonics, quantum mechanics. These forces have no goal, no empathy, no malice. They just are. Remove the supernatural layer, and reality's messiness finally makes sense. Lightning does not target sinners. It obeys charge gradients. Cancers are not tests of faith. They are cellular typos in a blind replication game. Does stripping away God drain life of meaning? Only if your meaning was outsourced to begin with. In fact, understanding that no cosmic referee guarantees justice can sharpen our own resolve to build it. If nobody saves us from tsunamis, we must build seawalls and evacuation systems. If no deity cures cancer, research labs must. Responsibility shifts from heaven to humanity, and that shift, far from bleak, is empowering. We become caretakers of each other and of the only planet we know, a fragile rock adrift with no cosmic insurance policy. So let us tally the case. Creation looks unnecessary for a perfect being. The universe runs on cataclysm, not compassion. Human anatomy reeks of iterative accidents, not pristine design. Suffering is rampant, arbitrary, and clearly more than any conceivable minimum. Free will fails to explain natural horrors. Theodicy fails to comfort victims. What does all this add up to? A God-shaped hole in which belief itself props up shaky scaffolding. Remove the scaffolding, and the sky does not fall. It merely reveals the vastness of reality, raw, unfiltered, awaiting our own imperfect yet passionate attempts to understand and improve it. So here is the final, unavoidable question. Faced with a universe that functions perfectly well without a deity, and a deity concept that buckles under its own contradictions, which option feels truer? What requires fewer excuses? And which future would you rather help build? One waiting passively for miracles, or one where we become the miracle makers? If that thought excites rather than frightens you, you already hold the key to a godless, meaningful life. Keep asking, keep doubting, keep building, because the only hands that will shape a better world are our own. Subscribe and join me on the next deep dive where we tackle another pillar of belief, because every unanswered question is an invitation to rebuild reality in clearer light.